Am I allowed to do another episode? Is that a thing? Because, it's been over a year. I miss doing these. It was a lot of fun. Hi there. Welcome to Yarns and Yarns, a show about yarn crafts and stories. My name is Shay McIntosh Ford, and I currently live in Colorado with my husband and 2 boys and our little 3-year-old puppy. But that can change, the Colorado part, but I'll get into that later. So if you noticed on my channel, or maybe I'm the only one that does this, not only did I abandon my show after only 4 episodes, but I did add some harp videos. And that's because after a panic attack due to the office politics at the day job, I decided that I'm just more suited to making money with music. Even after quitting that day job, I wasn't ready to pick up on new episodes because I needed to relearn quite a lot of repertoire on my harp. And like any creative person, I added on. So I also added guitar and piano and ukulele. I also have my niece's violin and cello to try. She's not playing them right now, so I'm holding them for her. But I haven't gotten very far with those at all. So I have been playing at weddings and dinner parties, coffee shops, department stores. I've been teaching music. And then, boom, coronavirus hit and sent us all home. I guess we came down with it. The evening after I posted my St. Patty's Day video, my nasal passages started burning. And I was just feeling horribly achy. So I didn't officially have the virus. My symptoms were mild. And because I'm not high risk or an essential worker, my doctors couldn't have me tested because they just didn't have enough tests. So, but the 2 doctors that I spoke to over the phone, they both agreed that my symptoms completely matched COVID. Plus the fact that I never get sick. So if I'm going to get sick with something, it's going to be something that no one has immunity to. I did get tested 4 weeks after my symptoms started. But by then my lung pain had already gone away. And mostly I was just exhausted. And a week after that, my test came back negative, so I could come out of isolation. So I'm still having some issues with my temperature going up occasionally to like 99 or so. But the sunshine is helping with my energy. And I still haven't bothered making the better coffee because my sense of taste is still out of whack. By the way, this is my new mug that I earned. It's 1 million cups. It's an organization for small businesses, and I stood up in front of 100 other small business owners and gave a speech about my harp. I'm an introvert, so talking to a camera and even playing harp in front of people is not that big a deal, but getting up and talking to people, it's actually kind of a nice mug. It holds your drink's really hot for hours, like one of those Yeti mugs. I've had one of those. They're good. You would think I would be practicing lots of music since I isolated in my music room. I tend to practice for like 6 hours a day.
But I couldn't even play the ukulele without getting winded after 10 minutes.
So it was crocheting and reading for me. I've almost completely lost my calluses. And look, my fingernails have never been so long. So I do have some FOs and some whips. Some are from my show's hiatus, and some are from what I've done in isolation. And that whole thing sounds so sad. So this is a wrap that I wanted to try, and I'm having a little trouble getting tangled up in my microphone workaround. Hubby had to take the other mic. And it's actually an Afghan pattern from this book that I picked up at a thrift store last Thanksgiving when I was visiting family. And the pattern is called Rose Rhapsody. Oh, it was really pretty. But so I only did like 4 panels and did a little variation on the yarn. This would probably work better if I take my denim jacket off. Oh, it still doesn't really match, but we'll go with it. So I'm not going to get into the details of this yarn because I will never go back there again. It's a Hobby Lobby brand, and as a Christian, I was disgusted with the way they handled this pandemic. They put lives on the line to make money. And the guys of... What? No one wants to hear more political noise. But remember why you went looking for crafting podcasts? Look, it's understandable that you went down a political rabbit hole while you were in isolation because there was very little to distract you. But your views are not within the scope of this show. Fine. Anyway, I like this pattern. And if I decide to make the Afghan in the future, I am going to buy my yarn at Woollyworks because I would much rather give them my money. And if you want to know what has fired me up, I will link my local news article down below. That's all. While I was looking for something not news related on YouTube, I ran across something called Mosaic Crochet, and I'd never heard of it before, but the tutorial looked pretty easy, so I used the leftover yarn from the wrap and did an experiment. A lot of the mosaic designs were like a southwestern style, which is fine. They're pretty, but I wanted to do something Celtic. So I found a free Celtic knotwork grid, and I just sort of doubled it. I kind of like the way it came out. This is just an experiment, so that's why the orange and stuff doesn't really match. I might use this one day to make a scarf or something. It's kind of neat. It comes out striped on the other side. And I also like this double border. You can actually add some more mosaic to this part. This side is double crochet, but it hides all the ends because, each row is a different color. But kind of gives it a nice, kind of sort of comfortable weight to it. So if this were a blanket or a scarf, it'd be pretty nice. Decided not to try to come up with something for the border. I was still kind of not feeling well in isolation at the time, so I just wanted to see what it looked like when it was done. And I still have some leftover of that multicolored yarn that I think might work with the plain pooling. I never got the hang of that, so I might give it a try. If it doesn't work, throw it away. Stupid Hobby Lobby. This next one is a whip from isolation, and I've been keeping it in my little Accio whips tote. And it's this thing. I'm another video I saw when I was trying to avoid the news. It's a scarf. That's what I'm turning it into anyway. And it's this is called a love knot, or a Solomon's knot. And this will look really pretty and lacy, and yeah. So I think it'll make a nice summer scarf. Maybe I could actually put it on my hat somehow. I don't know. Let's see. Like Mary Poppins, which I watched in isolation, both of them, and Saving Mr. Banks. So, and this cotton that I had, it was just something I had laying around because you can't go anywhere, especially if you're in isolation. So I had some Aunt Lydia's cotton. This is a size 10, and it's in the Delft colorway. And it's not specific to Hobby Lobby. I wish I could have gotten done more while I was in isolation, but I was so tired. So most of the time when I just needed to keep my fingers busy, I just solved my Rubik's Cubes very, very slowly. So after I came out of isolation, I decided I should probably work on my Weasley sweater, finally. And so this is as much as I've gotten done so far. I've got both the front and back panels finished. I'm not going to be buying this yarn again for reasons previously stated. Kind of puts a bad vibe on this sweater, so I'll probably make it again using something else. So I did end up doing my S with the intarsia method. I had never purled intarsia before, because this is, worked flat. And I had always knitted it because I had done intarsia in the round. And so I got pretty good at tinking these rows. Yeah. So that's it for recent stuff. I do have a few FOs from my hiatus that are worth showing off. These are the gloves I made from that yarn that I bought at Willy Works when my mom was here. And you can see I use them all the time. They're great for playing harp when I'm playing somewhere that's chilly. But yeah, you can see I use them a lot. They're a little bit pilled up a bit. And I did make another pair of these in that chocolate color that my mom had picked out. I don't drop the ball. Yeah, drop the ball. So this is what I have left over. I've already sent her those, and I'm gonna make myself another pair. But yeah, I haven't gotten around to it. And I also made a pair of gloves, the same pattern, for one of my sister-in-laws who lives in Kansas. She's a Jayhawk fan. But it's the Lydia crochet cotton. And I think it's the size 3, but I don't remember the names of the colors. Sorry. I also made a spring hat. And again, this is the Aunt Lydia's cotton. But again, I don't remember the names of the colors. I think this was the size 3. It probably was. But I wanted something wearable that I could put a daffodil on. Daffodils are my favorite flower. They're so happy. So I decided that I couldn't wear this hat for an episode because it hangs really low over my eyes. So it's kind of hard to see me. But I like hats like this in crowded places because it's like I have my own little personal space right here. I haven't worn it yet this spring. And finally, when I was allowed to crochet at that day job, because I had to prove that it wouldn't be a distraction for me, I made this for a lady locally here. She wanted it for her son, and so she just paid me to make it. And it's Hobby Lobby yarn, so yeah, you know the drill. Moving on to stories. Even writing was a struggle during isolation. So mostly I've been doing journaling, and so like, and when I journal, I just fill the whole page, you know. Yeah, I kind of would write one page and have to go lay down. Isn't that awful? And I couldn't type anything either, because hubby uses the computer, and I didn't want to contaminate it. My phone was my computer and my TV for 5 weeks, y'all. I thought about working on that one book, the big one, you know, the one that won that award, and I still haven't finished it. Maybe quarantine will have rearranged some priorities, kind of like it did with making this episode. I did write a new blog post. It's a parable about the coronavirus. So I actually published it the day before I went into isolation. And I will just leave it at that and link it below. So I've done a lot of rereading lately, especially in isolation because I didn't have any energy. And I reread the Hunger Games trilogy, the whole trilogy, with the audio version. Because sometimes I can be cruel to myself that way. It's actually a really great series if you haven't read it. But I'm not actually recommending it right now until things get back to normal. Another fantastic read that I'm not entirely sure I would recommend just now was actually not fiction. It's Copeland by Christopher Leonard. And the audio version had come in at my library, so I had to listen to it right then before it went away again because it was on a long hold time. Is that how you say that? Eye-opening. It's about the Koch brothers and this industrial empire that they've created. Whether you like it or not, they are in your life around the world. And I don't like it. So on one hand, it's deeply disturbing to know that a company like this has such an impact in our lives and politics. But on the other hand, it's oddly comforting to know that as messed up as our world is, it's not quite as random as it seems. Yeah. Shay. Don't make me put you in the hat of shame. And to keep my moderator happy, I will just recommend that you read it and leave it at that. I was so impressed with the depth of investigation that went into this book, so that's why I went ahead and ordered a hard copy so that I could highlight passages. So after that, I remembered that the best thing about books is that they are a great way to escape. Because, yeah, we all need an escape right now. I escaped with my beloved Charles Dickens. I had never gotten around to reading David Copperfield. And now that I have, I'm like, why did I wait so long to experience that? So good. So it's a kind of coming of age that incorporates elements of Dickens' own life. And what I like about it the most, really, is that it points out the ills of society. But it does it through the innocence of young Copperfield. So it's harsh but palatable. There were so many points in this story where I just wanted to kind of put my arms around David and just say, hey, you're making this really naive choice. Let me guide you. But, as a reader, you also excuse these naive choices because he really has no one to guide him through a lot of it. So one of the things that I really loved about this story is how massive the cast of characters are. but yet how like really intricately interwoven they are. For example, you meet David's aunt Betsy in the very beginning of the story, right before he's born, and she's like this really quirky character that suddenly vanishes in a huff because David wasn't born a girl, and then you never see her for a while, and you're like, oh, that's a strange woman. Okay, but then she shows up chapters later and plays a really massive role in David's life, and it's like, well, that's what she was for. I like her. Here again, I listened to the audio version, but this one's actually completely free if you want to listen to it yourself. There's a website called LibriVox.org, and they have all the classics read by volunteers, and I'll link to the version I listened to below. The fellow who reads this version sounds like he's Irish, but he does a really great job with the voices and the characters. He does the Cockney accent. Uriah Heep always drops his H's in certain parts, but not all the parts. But I think his name is Ty Kynes, but it doesn't look like that when you read it. But that's how he pronounces it. But anyway, it's a good listen. And now I've just started listening to Bleak House. So yeah, I'm still on a Dickens kick. Some other books I read and am reading are nonfiction political. So I'm not going to get into those. And if you really want to know what they are, you can ask me in the comments. I will say that I recognized some hypocrisy in one of the books I picked up at a used bookstore a while back. And so I didn't read past the introduction, and I figured I would just keep it in case we run out of toilet paper. The other book that I'm currently reading is J.K. Rowling's The Casual Vacancy. And I was wondering what I would find in this one, because I knew it wasn't a kid's book like the Potter series. So I'm not quite halfway through, and yet definitely not a kid's book. But I tell you what, this woman, she weaves magic with words. I mean, not that this book deals with magic at all, but she really knows how to grab your attention. I love the way she structures her sentences. I mean, I would never think to string words together that way. Maybe hopefully I'll become a better writer. I want to write like her. Okay, so now you're probably wondering, if she was in isolation and her husband works from home, what were the boys doing? Where are they? No, I didn't sell them. Sometimes I want to. They actually are at their aunt's farm. About the same weekend that I got sick, and I had to go in isolation, my sister-in-law came and picked up the boys. So they are having a blast doing chores, and I love that they're staying away from video games. They're also being homeschooled by her. She had 6 kids. Only two I think are left still at home, and other cousins are there right now, but she homeschooled all her kids, and so now she's got tons of resources and books and ideas and curricula that she can use on my boys. So they're learning cursive and proper typing structure, things that I just didn't have the time or patience to teach them. For those crafty people watching me, you're probably like, those shelves are so empty. There's a reason for that. There's a possibility that we're going to be moving. Hopefully not out of Colorado. I really love it here, but it's crazy expensive. And when the job situation didn't work out for me, we decided that we just need to be in a smaller house. Because now, especially with the harp not being a viable moneymaker right now, We just really can't afford it. So that's why my shelves are rather empty. I pulled out a few things as a backdrop, but yeah, it's sad. So I guess that's it for this episode. Hopefully I will do another one within 2 weeks. I don't know. Probably, since we're in isolation and I don't have a whole lot else to do and you don't have a whole lot else to watch. So, yeah, I might do it anyway just because it's fun. I have fun with the editing. I like all the little sound effects I find. Yeah, just like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you soon.